Jasmine Crockett just sent some strong words to Pam Bondi after Bondi's threat on Fox News.
One of the things that the chairman and I actually agree upon, we don't agree on a lot, is that we both know that there has been a sharp incline as it relates to threats upon our lives. Regardless of what side of the aisle you sit on, we both know and agree that as sitting members of Congress, we both are enduring more death threats than anybody should in this country. And I believe that it is because of the divisive rhetoric and it is because of the selective enforcement of things. And so when we have, and I'm gonna be clear because I had remarks and I'm going a whole other way. To have the sitting attorney general go on, and I'm gonna call it faux news. I know some of y'all love it, but it's fake to me. To have her go on Fox News and to then decide that she wanted to send a threat to me, it was wrong. Because here it is, she is the highest law enforcement agent in this country, and people are watching and they are consuming this information and they are believing that simply because I decided that I wanted to exercise my right to free speech, which I am not abridged from doing, that she then wanted to then politicize something that should not be politicized. I don't like Elon Musk. I'm going to say it 50,000 times. I don't like him. I don't like that he going out there and he firing people. I think that he's a crook because somehow the rest of us can't sit around and get whatever federal contracts we want. The rest of us can't sit around and get law enforcement and get them somehow ordained as federal law enforcement to protect him. The rest of us can't get our dealerships protected by the federal government. That is somebody that is operating above the law. For whatever reason, just because he has a lot of money, more money than everybody else. And yes, I am happy to see that on my birthday, which is what I said, there were peaceful protests around this world against him because he is a problem. And so you never should have somebody that is sitting that high and is going to sit up here and threaten a sitting member of Congress when she knew good and well, if she watched the entire thing, that I specifically told protesters to make sure you consult with lawyers, just like I've told protesters over and over and over in the history of me advising people to go out and exercise their constitutional right. The fact that there are other sitting members that have received letters of threat from this new DOJ tells me that they are about retribution and they are not about following the law. The reason that our party, or I won't even say our party, our country is torn apart is because we can't even agree on right versus wrong. This should not be left versus right. The only thing that we're asking is that we have law enforcement that will show up when there is an actual crime. If somebody calls and says, hey, I need you to investigate this cyber crime, or I need you to investigate this child pornography, or I need you to investigate this robbery, then we want somebody to show up, and we don't want them to look at us and act as if just because I'm black or because I'm woman, that I am not worthy of having that case investigated, because we have an administration that is continuously railing against diversity, equity, and inclusion, or we don't need people that show up that feel like diversity should not be valued. That is why we should have somebody that may show up and looks like me. The final thing that I'll say, because you've been gracious, is this. When I first became a public defender, I had no criminal defense experience. And I walked in and I told my boss, Charlie, I said, listen, you should hire me. He said, why? I said, because I'm black. Charlie looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, let me tell you something. When I walk in, I'm going to walk in with a level of rapport and understanding then maybe some of my other colleagues will not. Charlie offered me my job, and I worked my butt off, and I worked really, really hard for all of my clients, not just those that look like me, and that is what it looks like to serve. Thank you.
Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett didn't just give a speech here. She pulled back the curtain on something that way too many people in Washington want to pretend isn't happening. And whether you like her, dislike her, or fall somewhere in between, the substance of what she said deserves to be taken seriously. Because when sitting members of Congress are talking openly about a sharp rise in death threats, we're no longer in the realm of partisan squabbles. We're in dangerous territory. This is about power. This is about rhetoric. This is about what happens when the highest levels of law enforcement stop acting like referees and start acting like political players. One of the most striking parts of Crockett's remarks is when she says something that should stop everyone in their tracks. She agrees with the chairman on one thing: threats against members of Congress are skyrocketing. Let that sink in. This isn't just Democrats. This isn't just Republicans. This is people elected to represent the public receiving death threats as part of the job. And Crockett connects that directly to divisive rhetoric and selective enforcement of the law. Not abstract rhetoric, not anonymous online trolling. She's talking about messaging that comes from the top, messaging that people absorb, internalize, and then act on. Words matter, especially when they come from someone with a badge, a title, and a national megaphone. Let me slow this down here, because this is where all of this comes together. What Jasmine Crockett is really talking about isn't just Pam Bondi. It isn't just Fox News. It isn't just Elon Musk. It's the direction of power in this country and who gets to wield it without consequence. When the Attorney General of the United States goes on television and singles out a member of Congress, that's not just a political moment. That's a signal. It tells the public who is protected and who is exposed. When rhetoric becomes reckless, threats become real. When enforcement becomes selective, trust disappears. When justice feels conditional, democracy weakens. This moment we're living in is bigger than personalities. It's bigger than party labels. It's about whether institutions still serve the people or whether they serve power. Crockett's frustration doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from watching systems that are supposed to be neutral slowly tilt. It comes from seeing speech framed as criminal. It comes from watching billionaires receive protections ordinary Americans could never access. And it comes from knowing that once these lines are crossed, they're very hard to redraw. You don't have to agree with every word she said to understand the warning she's giving. You don't have to like her tone to grasp the stakes. What she's asking for is remarkably simple: law enforcement that enforces the law, not politics. A justice system that investigates crime, not dissent. Leadership that de-escalates, not inflames. And accountability that applies upward, not just downward. Because if we reach a point where members of Congress fear speaking freely, where protest is treated as threat, and where power shields itself from scrutiny, then the damage won't be partisan. It will be national. And history shows us something very clearly. Once institutions lose legitimacy, rebuilding them is far harder than protecting them in the first place. If you found this breakdown valuable, hit the like button. It really helps the channel. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know where you agree or disagree. And if you want more deep dives like this, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.